Just in terms of the fiscal priorities of the Goodluck Jonathan administration, you have less than a year to go in terms of this tenure. What are you focusing on?
Well, I think there are three main areas. One is economic growth. The second is some fiscal or budgetary reform. And the third is institutional reform. So when I talk about the economic growth, our main focus is on four main areas. The first is on capital, sourcing and allocating cheap capital to critical areas of the economy. The second is on job creation. You know we have quantity advantage. What we need to do is deepen or increase the quality. But more importantly, we need to create jobs. The level of unemployment is unacceptable. And that's going to be a major focus in the last year of this administration. The third is a focus on removing barriers to productivity. If you ask any Nigerian, they will tell you that the biggest barrier to productivity is power. And I'm delighted that the president is chairing that committee, which I sit on. But the other areas is to make sure that we increase our competitiveness. We would also look at business climate. But those are the key areas we want to look at in terms of economic growth.
Let's chip away at the issues you've raised in small. Minister, let's chip away. Minister, let's chip away at some of these issues in small blocks. Now, we know that the banking reforms introduced by the CBN have been quite controversial and they've dominated headlines. But although they've received a lot of government support, there have been unintended consequences, for instance, and that's a drying up of credit and liquidity in the Nigerian economy, and that's affected SMMEs and the construction and real estate sector. Are you very concerned about these unintended consequences and how you're going to get around this issue of credit drying up and liquidity?
Let me first of all say that the reform in the banking sector had to be done. So we welcome it. And I think the most important thing is to make sure that we have a stronger, credible banking sector. Having said that, yes, you're right, there have been some unintended consequences, and you talked about the drying of credit. There are a number of ways we've been trying to address it. One is we have had dialogue and discussions with the CEOs of the banks to see what we can do and how we can make it easier for them to resume lending. We have also intervened. There's a program, and I normally would use this as an example, where the CBN, working with the Bank of Industry, recently the CBN has made available close to about 500 million. And that has gone into, or that has been channeled to small-scale farmers and small and medium enterprises. What we have done there is to help them refinance their loans in a way that they now have cheaper funding. We've reduced the interest rate from above 20% to under 10%, roughly in most cases 7 to 8%. And this is longer term loan. So we've had cases where at least about between 300 or 350 and 400 enterprises have applied for this loan. I know one in particular that employs close to about 250 to 300 people. They invested money in a state-of-the-art manufacturing plant, but unfortunately that was funded using loans from commercial banks with short-term loans with very high interest rate, and they were in the process of actually closing down the business. What Minister, this has done is that this has given them a lifeline to start the business again.
Minister, there's also a lot of talk about the proposed...
So that's one way we have intervened.
All right, Minister, there's a lot of talk about a proposed asset management company. That bill has gone to Parliament, and actually the intention is to mop up the toxic assets and do some sort of an investment and direct funds into government bonds. I mean, you're all looking into valuations of these toxic assets. But effectively, I think the need is to stimulate credit growth from the banks so that you're getting SMEs operational, employing people, and in that way trying to deal with the unemployment that you referred to earlier on, which sits at over 19%. Is there more that you could be doing in terms of stimulating credit growth or finding another trajectory in terms of dealing with unemployment?
Okay, I couldn't agree more with you in terms of what you've said and the approach we should be adopting. So the asset management company will go a long way to resolving some of the issues. But we have a combination or a number of interventions. I've just described one to you. The other is that we're working with most of the development banks to look at where and we can source cheap funding and make sure that this funding is directed to those small and medium or small and growing enterprises. It's going to take some time, but we hope that within the next month or two, you should start seeing the effect of these initiatives which we have in place. Then we'll hope to announce some of them within the next 2 or 3 weeks.
All right. Now, Minister, Nigeria has the ambition of being a G20 country by the year 2020. And in fact, in support of this, we've got a report released by Goldman Sachs a few years ago that said that Nigeria is one of the next 11 emerging market economies to look out for. The impediment, though, are some of these structural deficiencies like energy that you raised earlier on. Although the president has taken on energy as his social project under his watch, under his portfolio, there is a sense that not much can really be achieved within a year. What's your view?
Well, that's the beginning. I think we have to start from somewhere. We all agree that power infrastructure, we have a big infrastructure deficit. And the biggest and the main area we want to focus on is power. Now, the president has taken that under his watch. The intention is that before the end of this administration, we should see improved power supply. Now, there are a number of other initiatives. That's just the immediate time, but there are short, medium, and long-term plans to deal with the issue of power. There's no doubt that the government cannot do this alone. We need to we need to have legal and regulatory framework that encourages and makes it a lot easier for the private sector to get involved. Well, in the last 2 or 3 months, I've had presentations from at least 10 private sector players in the industry who are willing and capable to invest in power. And we should see more of this going forward. So I think the important thing is to have a strong, robust plan. Not the improved power is the immediate thing we want to see. But I think that there are short, medium, and long-term plans. And this is not just about government, it will involve the private sector.